The tremolo has been tweaked. It's Friday afternoon. Good afternoon to the 3 Revs special edition.
Yeah. I misadvertised it. I put 2 Revs chatting. Should have been 3.
Well, I did call it 2 Revs, but special edition. So, and it is special because we get to say good afternoon, Reverend Stapley.
Good afternoon, guys. I apologize for the sunglasses. I've got a migraine. I'm not trying to look cool or dramatic.
It wouldn't matter if you did. I was just out shopping with my sunglasses and my dog collar on,
Amazing.
Oh dear, their mum's away already. Look, wow.
Yeah, here we go. It has begun, dears. Well, it's been a while. How are you, Matthew?
I'm doing really well. Busy these days, but doing well here. How are you guys doing?
Fabulous. Tony, you go first because I've got to make a note in my head.
Okay. Yeah, fine. Absolutely fine here. Everything's going well. It's been far too long, matey. It's been far too long.
Has.
Yeah.
It really is quite strange, isn't it? Because even though I can't actually pinpoint in my head the last time we 3 shared a screen, it doesn't feel like it's a very long time, even though I know it is. Yeah. And it just feels like that natural fall in and get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, Mum makes the comment. I have a problem with my eyes too, Matthew. Mum had eye surgery. She had her eyelids tightened, she's a bit wounded. So healing, everybody peeps, please. To the
yes,
absolutely. Yeah. I hope that you recover really, really soon, Linda. Mrs. Brown.
Oh, she'll love Linda. She'll be happy with that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we are progressing the Rainbow Project, Rotherham, as Michael has commented.
Absolutely, yes.
That seems to be taking over our lives at the moment, but
Well, this is the appropriate month.
Of course it is. It's Pride Month.
Happy Pride to you guys.
Happy Pride to you too. Did you see? I know, Matthew, you popped on at the end of last service last night. I don't know whether Tony's seen it because I know you're busy. I advertised it as the 3 Queens of Spiritualism.
I missed that. I would have loved it. It would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Oh, my computer's just reminded me to be ready to go live with Spiritline.
There you go.
I'm here.
I'm sitting right next to an air conditioning unit for your benefit, so I look this good.
I'm a little jealous, Nick.
Gonna say, I mean, I can't beat you this week, Matthew.
No, just look.
Everybody already is. I'm surprised they even noticed I was wearing anything,
Yeah. Oh, hi, Sherry Ann.
Hey.
Sherry Ann's here.
So we really are kind of spreading right across the world today. Sherry Ann is in France.
Amazing.
Matthew, you're in Canada. I'm in Littleport. Tony, you're in Rotherham. Kaz up there in Scotland.
Yeah.
And we've got the Reverend Alan here. He's up in Cleethorpes.
Alan, nice to see you.
And Dawny is down there in Essex.
Yeah.
So we're getting about, I tell you.
We are.
We've got a lot of people from everywhere. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. It is wonderful. So shall we say some proper hellos? Because I've jumped about, but let's say hello to everyone. I will be, because I get confused. So I'll be button guy. You two say hello.
Okie doke. Oh, hi, Linda. Hi, Mom. Love that. And Dawny. Yeah.
And Sue.
Yay. Happy anniversary, Sue.
Happy anniversary.
Wedding anniversary. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Danielle. Lovely. Welcome. Oh, no, him. I'm not speaking.
Hi. Well, nice to see you. Well, see your name anyway.
Yeah. And Alan. Yes, Reverend Alan. in sunny Cleethorpes, and Nicola watching in the last bit of her working day.
Oh yes, quite right too. There's Kaza.
Yeah, with the dinky t-shirt.
The lovely t-shirt, which is going
Yeah.
very well. I'm not supposed to know this, but there's a new colour coming out.
Oh,
It's going
What?
grey.
going grey.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You can't wait to see the grey ones.
That's
Yeah,
going to be
Michael.
added to the website. Oh, there we go,
Fab.
Julie.
Hi, Julie. I hope you're all right, darling. Somebody was saying you weren't well. I hope you're okay, sweetie.
Healing on the way, sweetie.
Mm.
And there's Sherry. We have a Facebook user who says this should be fun, so they obviously know us. So whoever thinks it's going to be fun, let us know who you are, please.
Yes, so we can say a proper hello. And hello, Jen.
Hey, Jen. And Leslie.
Yay.
And we are caught up so far with
Yay,
everyone
we
saying
are,
hello.
we are.
If you haven't said hello, please do get online, joining in. The conversation is very much led by yourselves at home. We don't come in with many preconceptions of what we want to talk about. We used to, but it never happened. So we just, turn up. But this is all about what you want to talk about. If there's a burning question. Now, interestingly enough, I do have a burning question this week that came from one of our viewers.
Oh.
And this is it. Thought of philosophy for today around pride for you. If we are all the same, then why do some people feel the need to be labelled? I understand people can be born into the wrong body and therefore wish that to change. But surely we should aim to have less labels rather than more. Just a thought, especially celebrating this Pride Month.
That's something we touched on in one of our previous ones, didn't we? Because we did say about the community, the queer community, the LGBTQ community, seem to be adding letters rather than trying to narrow them down.
Yes.
And yeah.
I lose track of it personally. I feel like I'm constantly messing it up.
Yeah. So I just tend to go LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
And that's a catch-all for me at the end. It's just a plus.
I always have a plus in too for the exact same reason. Because it's a lot.
If you start with the I, it goes on forever.
Yeah, it's alphabet mafia, they call it.
Yeah.
In actual fact, I don't even do that anymore. I saw it online and I thought, I love this, I've got to do it. So I now say I am Lebitiqua.
Oh yeah.
Lebitiqua.
I love it.
Everyone knows my obsession with bringing down labels. Interestingly enough, technically speaking, those that are non-binary are doing just that because they refuse to take labels. So in order to have a conversation, you do need a pronoun. And they've gone for they, them, because they wish to not be pinned down in any one particular box.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is shining forward. But don't you just find that in life in general, everyone has to grab at a label?
Yeah. Grab at a label and stuff you in a box.
I think it's partially human nature because of the way our brains work physiologically, is we're always comparing and contrasting and like things like that. So I think categorization is kind of like a natural human thing. Does it mean that we shouldn't try to like be inclusive and all of that? I think we should accept people as they are without needing to label everybody. But I think that the reason why our world gets so hung up on it is that it is very physiological for our minds to want to categorize different things. So I think it's like we kind of got to hack our biology a little bit in a sense to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
One of the things that I've often found is that there are certain things that we get really, really grumpy about, and that is possession and ownership and being told what to do. Yeah. But in spite of all of that, we still want to belong. We want to be part of something. We want to be running with the pack. So it's a little bit of both, really.
Yeah, it is.
And Dawny says, I feel labels are what we make me feel like they have a place within society rather than being themselves. So there is quite, as you've pointed out, that risk, isn't there?
Absolutely. And you know, there are some animals that are in our nature kingdom that that thrive both on their own and in packs. Like if you look at a lot of like wolves and other canines, like they're totally happy on their own, but they also are totally happy in a pack. And I think that we're, as humans, I think we're quite a bit like that, where we need our own space and our own identity and all of that, but we also by nature are social beings, so we do want to be a part of something greater in some capacity. I think it is really cool how part of nature we actually really are. We often see it as something separate from us humans, but really we're just another animal on the planet. To anybody who might be looking through their telescope at us anyway, we're just another animal. And I think that when we see our commonalities with the nature around us, we really can see that we are just a living organism. It's very cool in my mind. I know that's like a whole tangent of its own, but it's
absolutely. Alan has just chipped in with the only label is human, which we all are, and I think that's really important, actually.
Me too.
The irony is I heard something, and I apologize to whoever I'm borrowing this from. If you're watching, let me know and I will credit you. But someone told me this week that science has finally decided to categorize certain animals as sentient beings.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Octopuses were one of the first.
Yes.
Wow.
And it reminds us that we aren't that unique in creation.
No.
If not unique as individuals, yes, we are, of course. And as a grouping, we are but one race, regardless of location, language, color, age, gender, interest in the other or the same gender, or all of the above. But just like animals, who also, go through that same process of packing, being loners, of procreating with whatever the need feels of whatever's in front of you at the time, all of the above. The animal kingdom, we are animalistic in nature, and we do tend to forget this. As you said, Matt, it's very easy. I love the way you put it. In actual fact, the one thing we tend to not notice is that we are actually animals.
Yeah, we really are. We really are.
Wow, that wow. That's a whole can of worms in itself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to take the first stab at this one?
Yes.
Go for it.
Beauty before youth, Tony. Go for it.
Oh gosh. I don't want to be insulted or pleased with that, Matthew. I have had mixed experiences with church, because before I came to spiritualism, I was Church of England and went to church several times a week. And I returned to my hometown a few years after I'd moved in with Michael, and my dad convinced me to go to Christmas service with him. It was Christmas Eve. And I was dreading it because I'd had a really horrible experience here in Rotherham, where I went to a church, and for 1 week, everything was fine. Went back the second week after I'd discussed being gay with members of the congregation, and I was refused communion. But when I went home, I went up to the northeast and went to church with my dad. We went early, and the vicar came running up the aisle, grabbed hold of me, gave me a big hug, and said, "Oh, I've missed you. It's lovely to see you." And after the Christingle service, I went down for communion, and I just went for a blessing, and he gave me communion and said, "Your relationship with God is your own personal relationship. It's got nothing to do with me." But I do know that some of the patriarchy of certain Orthodox religions do have an issue with anything which is other than, and they're relying on certain Bible passages to beat us over the head with, and it's just not right. It's just not right. Oh, thank you, Sue. But no, it was lovely, and it was so nice to be welcomed and made to feel at one with the congregation, rather than, oh no, you're over there and we can't we can't possibly allow you to take part in a part of this beautiful service, and no. But that's what attracted me to this and the Independent Spiritualist Alliance, and I've said it before, it was on the basis of, I said I would be part of it if, when we say all are welcome, we really mean it. We really mean it, no matter what at all. Absolutely. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Michael. Yes.
Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
God does not own buildings. Churches are gatherings of people. Our local isn't a church. It's a begging bowl with a steeple. And we do find this. And, you know, from my perspective to the original question of how people react, I got to say, I loved what Alan had to say. I starred it so that I could come back to it. If they cannot accept them, then they should not be there. I
spotted that and I thought, absolutely.
And Dawny backed it up. But I've got to say, the reaction that I mostly get can be summed up in a paraphrasing of 2 sentences. Really? Wow. Are you allowed to be a vicar then? And that's the general reaction that I tend to get is, are you actually allowed? Is that allowed? Forgetting that we're not actually part of the Orthodox Church, that we're not affiliated with. Because people assume just because they see you as a minister that you follow, that all churches follow the same rules and principles. You know, people see Christianity as one big happy church. It's the most fragmented one in the universe. Spiritualism does its job of following suit with it sometimes, to be fair. But it's not one big happy church. You know, Catholicism and Anglicanism, which is basically Protestantism, are completely opposite on so many things. And it's the same with many different ways of life. And, you know, to say, oh, well, wear a different uniform then, I actually like wearing a short collar because it doesn't need ironing so much. And that's my reason why. But, you know, when it comes to acceptance, I think people in the spiritualist movement, and I don't know what Matt will have to say about it himself, but I find, and I don't know whether Tony you agree, that the spiritualist movement is a lot more open and, you know, and so what? Do you know, that's my favorite phrase. It shouldn't be probably, but I think it's the best one. And so what?
Yeah.
I like that.
I do. And yes, I completely agree. Spiritualists, I think because we understand that this is a suit that we wear for the length of time we are going to be on this planet, makes us think, oh, well, you know, it's fine. We're all the same from the divine energy inside, so it really doesn't matter. There are issues within the spiritualist movement, but as far as our community are concerned, I don't think that part of it makes a difference. I think the problem we have in spiritualism is with, and I hate to say it, ego. Rather than sexuality, gender, creed, color, anything else. It's ego. You can't do that because that makes you appear better than me, and I can't have that, you know. So that I think that's that's where my point is. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but it certainly is like that here.
So in Canada, it's a little bit different. So spiritualism is way more well known in the UK than it is here, like by a lot. So we do have spiritualist churches like across the country, but even in our city, which is the capital of the country, I think we have one for sure, maybe two spiritualist churches in the whole city, and the next one is probably Toronto, which is not far away. It's 5 hours west of us. So, that's like about it. And maybe there's another one in the next city over, which is 2 hours east of us. So, I think in terms of spiritualism, it's definitely more accepting. I have not been a part of any spiritualist church gatherings here where anyone thought anything weird about a gay minister or gay people in the congregation. Now, that said, there are a lot of other religions here, and we are a very, very diverse country. And so there's many forms of Christianity, and some of them are very, very open minded, not just tolerant, but actually accepting. Like the United Church of Canada, they ordain gay clergy. They were the first big church to offer gay wedding services. They're amazing. Catholicism, not so much. Last time I went to a Catholic church, I was just sitting there by myself wearing respectable clothes, not even this, like, I mean, really just like I was going to an office or whatever. And so I was sitting there, and this lady walked up to me. I hadn't spoken, like I was just sitting there, and she said, excuse me. And I said, yes. And she said, are you here for confession? And I was like, what? I was like, do you have all week? Like, what's going on? We'll do the first few minutes. I'll confess all the things that you think I did wrong, and we'll spend the rest of the week with, I'll give you some new ideas. But I think it was just basically like, she just saw somebody that looked different in some way and automatically labeled me a sinner. So that's very common in a lot of churches in Canada, but just in North America in general. If you go to the US, it's about 100 times worse by far. They have what's called mega churches there. And mega churches are they're like a business, but their congregations in one service might have 10,000 people in the church. And those places are pretty famously anti-LGBTQIA at sign squared. So, or whatever.
Yeah. We had a visit from Franklin Graham last year. He was doing all the big arenas in the UK, and the Rainbow Project went and stood outside with placards along with several other people sort of saying, no, I think you should bugger off back where you've come from.
Yeah,
we don't want your vile bile here, please, thank you very much.
And you know what,
sorry,
no, you carry it.
Interestingly, as people were going in, a few people did walk over and say, what's the protest about? And we had interesting discussion, debate. There were a couple, and it was like immediately, you're going to hell, you're going to burn. And it's like, well, for spreading the hate he spreads, we'll see you there. You know? But, yeah.
When it comes to these big names in the mega churches, I find their lack of understanding of their own doctrine in scripture quite pathetic, actually. I'm going to be brutally honest. There was one particularly famous pastor who would describe floods, and I'm being very specific with this particular telling. He would say that the floods in various different current countries were punishment for allowing people like us into the church and all this sort of thing. But the whole principle of the rainbow for pride is quite telling, because the rainbow, they're stealing our symbol. So they're taking ownership of the rainbow, fine. But if you actually read the story behind that, the story of Noah after the flood, the covenant of Noah was, I will never again cause death to the human race by flood as a means of punishment. So read your own paperwork, read your own rules, and stop sticking your fingers in other people's lives, because we as Christian spiritualists, all right, we cross some bridges. I get that. but we try and bring unity through the crossing of those bridges. When it comes to, you know, beating people over the stick with various different scripture, it is all centered around ownership, control, and ego. And if there's an old saying that I keep going back to, my mate Joshua Carpenter always used to say, by their fruits you will know them. Well, all these people that can't even read the scripture that they're trying to preach, their fruits are pretty rank, you know, and would be well placed to be thrown back at them. But as many people in the comments have said, Eunice, Alan, there is no place for ego. It's all about acceptance. It's always about kindness. And it's what you do to people and each other that counts. Yes. And I think the more we can divert the conversation to joy and happiness and love and laughter, we will drown out these bigots, these ignorant people, without buying into their narrative, because there's always a risk, isn't there? As much as we want to educate people about the ignorance behavior, the more we spread their words and give them a platform, the more power we are giving to them. So if we good and great decent people who just give a damn about each other can drown out, because I know here in this place, in this conversation, we are preaching to the choir. We are preaching to the. We're not even preaching. We're just yakking. But the saying is old, and I use it often. But I know we are preaching to the choir. But if the choir just ups its volume, we will drown out the bigotry and the hatred. Not just when it comes to gender, but when it comes to color, when it comes to age, when it comes to everything. Yeah. And I think sometimes we can have too much faith in things turning out all right, because we then don't take the action to make things turn out all right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So hugely.
Yeah.
I agree too.
Yeah, there's a lot of positivity going up in the comments as well.
And then there's Michael.
Yeah.
Bless you, Michael. I love you.
He's raising some really good points, though.
There's
understanding his hash like that.
Yeah, I like that one. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Michael might put people off sometimes with his comments, but usually it's because he's got a point. He's very blunt and very honest and very open with his feelings. You can never say you never know where you stand with Michael, and that for me makes so much difference.
Yeah.
I think if we can all share our heart's desire and our feelings in a way that is kind and or blunt, you know, if we can share our thoughts and feelings and just discuss it without, you know, taking personal offense to it. But then it brings us back to that sense of ownership, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's the labels and borders and boundaries and name tags, because it then becomes ownership. And if you feel like you own something, you're going to fight for it. Yes. And you're not always going to consider that other people and that other person in that conversation has the same right to an opinion.
Absolutely.
Especially in the North American mega churches.
No kidding. And you know what? I think it's really sad, because I think part of it is fear with these people that are, you know, doing all these terrible things to our communities. I think part of it is fear. I think part of it is wanting to have somewhere to put their anger and their frustration of why the world isn't, you know, created in their image. I think in a sense, right? And I find it really sad. And the saddest part is that these negative, like, crappy beliefs are handed down from one generation to another. And I think that's, for me, the saddest part, is that there's young kids who believe what these really terrible preachers are saying, because they're told that it's the truth. And the beautiful thing that I'm seeing, though, is, like, in the last year even, I've met so many people that were very, very Christian that are now in the journeys of deconstructing their faith and figuring out, you know, what it all means and what actually makes sense for them and how to have, you know, their own relationship with God. And I think the fact that that's just like becoming such a strong trend makes me really hopeful.
Yeah.
I think as a minister myself, like the two of you, like I don't know God any better than anybody else does. I might have some more knowledge or experience on history and theology and philosophy, but not but just that. I mean, we all have our own individual relationships with whatever we believe divinity to be. And I think religion is an attempt at making sense of that relationship, or it's an attempt at figuring out what God wants from our half of our relationship with him or it or her or whatever. And I think spirituality is the relationship itself. And so we're seeing, in the last 10 years, but especially in the last year or two, so many people migrating from religion towards spirituality. So they're realizing that all the things that they were told God needs from them in order for that relationship to be there just aren't true. I mean, what do you buy God for Christmas that God doesn't already have, right? So I think it's a big shift that's happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's nice to see that Eunice has reintegrated with StreamYard. Well done, darling. And this is something that she and I discuss quite a lot. I would rather be in a church with people who are themselves than people who preach one thing and practice another. Absolutely. In actual fact, somebody once told me when they found out that I was due to be ordained, "Oh, you'll have to start behaving yourself now." And my answer to them was, I got to the position I'm in by being me. If I were to stop being me, I wouldn't have earned the position or deserved the position or have the right to hold that position.
Yeah.
Because, the one positive comment that seems to be frequent with me is, "You're not what I expected."
Yeah.
You swear, you curse, well, up until February you smoke, you say things as it is. But of course, I'm a human being. I'm flawed. I'm limited. I'm normal, like everybody else. What I do as my part for trying to help people is irrelevant to the fact that I'm naughty sometimes. I have a giggle. I'll make the occasional inappropriate comment, although I'm not the one who comes out with SH1T. As I'll always keep reminding him of that one because that was funny. Sorry, Tony, I couldn't help it. But this is it. We have a giggle. We have a laugh.
We do.
And that's what people are interested in, not sitting there being lectured at and told what they can and cannot do.
No.
It's interesting. You made a point, Matt, about the deconstruction movement. Now, that really hasn't made as bigger impact in this country as it has in North America, and you're obviously a lot closer on the grand scheme of things. I know it's a different country, but you're obviously a lot closer on the grand scheme of things, so there would be a bit of a bleed. I went on a deconstruction conference last year because I was interested, and it was amazing. It really, really was, and I found more spiritual and, in the words of Cherry Ann, awakened individuals who were actually deconstructing their faith than those that appear to be quite confident in it.
I think that's what led me to spiritualism, because when I came out and when I moved in with Michael, and I had a lot of conflict within myself because I was like, but God now hates me because I'm this and that and the other. But I didn't feel like God hated me. So I had to sort of do a lot of introspection and a lot of thinking about what was important. And that's when I found spiritualism and Christian spiritualism, because I think what we need to do as ministers is to just almost lead by example, and not in the way that there's been in the comments about people following like sheep. I just think we need to shine our truth and show people that there is a different way to have a relationship with God, that you don't need somebody to lay down the ground rules for you. You negotiate those rules yourself with God, because it's a very, very personal thing. And to answer Michael's question, I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
I think God wants to learn from us just as much as we want to learn from God. And that's what's important. And that's what I think people need to learn.
Yeah.
Because you go to church to be told what God wants. No, have that conversation yourself.
Yeah.
Build that relationship, have that interaction with God or whoever you want to call it. That's absolutely fine. But I don't like this idea of we must go and sit in a building and be lectured at for 2 hours to be beaten over the head with a stick and told that, we were born into sin, when we were born from the love. 9 times out of 10, we were born from love.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. That was my 2 pence anyway. And Donnie
should be a whole pound because of inflation, though, Tony.
Well, yeah, at the minute, yeah. I like to think that you should be approachable, and people should be able to come to you and say, I'm struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the conversations that I frequently have with my gang, my pals, my family, the church at Littleport is, you tell me what you want. My job is to facilitate.
Yes.
If we're doing something that you like, say so, we'll do it more. If we're doing something that you're not too keen on, we'll talk about it. That there are certain things, like, for instance, if everyone said, well, don't do any prayers anymore, I'd struggle with that one, because opening and starting with but once again, it's about the format of the prayers. I had a really, really lengthy conversation with another Tony about the healing prayer that we do on a Thursday night. And there were I said, right, okay, here's the base prayer that we use. Make it your own. And to an extent, he struggled with that because it wasn't the wording that he would use. I said, well, don't do it then. Just use that as this is the first part, this is the next part. And as long as you mention all the bases, go for it. And do you know what? Last night, what he read out for the healing was totally Tony. And the confidence and comfort in what he was doing with that was so telling. And I was so proud and pleased and over the moon with it. And the point is this: when it comes to a conversation with God, it has to be realistic and right and true and comfortable for you. And you could tell that difference, because even, I gob off about this one all the time. Sorry, going to again, the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer should not be given by rote. The disciples said, "Oi, Joshua, how do we pray?" And he said, say something like this. Not say this word for word and hang bits off it like a Christmas tree. That's my new catchphrase, by the way. Hang bits of it like a Christmas tree. And hang... Matthew's just gone to sort something out. He will be back in a moment. Christmas... Hanging things off it like a Christmas tree. It's not. It was about, this is the base template. Make it your own. Yeah. And that is so important.
It is. And I've seen a couple of comments from Daniel, and what really pleases me and what I'm really proud of is Daniel's a skeptic. Daniel, we know Daniel, and we've had in-depth conversations through this with Daniel, but he keeps coming back.
Yeah.
He keeps coming back. And like he said, we make him think. He may not agree with everything we say and everything we talk about, but we make him think, which is amazing. And Michael, prayers.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. But you see, although I use that as an example, if the congregation came to me and said, look, the prayers are pretty samey, we're not too comfortable for the prayers, I'd sit down and say, right, well, let's talk about prayers. How would you feel comfortable in the format of a prayer? Because I feel it's important as a church service that we do have prayers, but I wouldn't say, we've got to have this prayer. Which format of prayer would make you all feel comfortable? Drop the Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, and just say Divine Universe. But then you've got other mediums quite often will help out with the prayers and go off and, you know, do their own thing anyway. So there's always a bit of variety anyway. And I don't always say the same thing either. I don't like prayers by rote. So I think that's probably why no one's complained about them, because there's always something a little bit different.
For me, it's about the opening prayer is about starting the service, asking for the protection, asking for the love to be there, and setting the tone and the intent for the rest of the evening.
Yes.
And at the end of it, it's about wrapping it up. It's about thanking people for being there, thanking Spirit for being there, and then handing everything back over to the divine. And I'm just going to mute myself and go and sort that door out because it starts to do my head in. Sorry, I'll not be a second.
You know, I think prayer at the beginning and end of service, especially at the beginning, I think it's important because it kind of brings everybody's awareness, or, you know, into one space, right? That state, in a sense, it's a statement of intention. And I think that kind of brings everybody into the same, you know, mental, emotional zone, which I think is actually important in any kind of group event, whether it's a church or not. You know, people want to know why they're there and you know what the focus is going to be. And so I think just at a very basic level, it is actually very useful to bring everybody to like a grounded space.
Absolutely. And you notice it with the heat when you do the healing part, when everyone goes into the silence and sends out their healing thoughts, the impact of that moment just completely shifts the whole paradigm. I mean, I could have been making a complete and utter tit of myself, laughing, joking, and everyone's sitting there giggling away. And we've got 3 members of the congregation in particular. It doesn't matter what anybody else is saying. They will sit and have a giggle. You know who you are. They will have a giggle and muck about. But as soon as that healing moment, the whole atmosphere changes. So that you're right. It's that focus in that moment. But there are other things that we've done in the church. We've tried as a new idea. Let's give this a go. And the congregation have come up to me at the end and said, "How do you think that bit went?" And I already know by the tone that there's consensus that I think we should probably not do that again. Oh, thank God for that. You know, but the fact that they feel comfortable having that conversation proves to me that they know that the church is theirs, not any one particular person's.
That's beautiful. And that's the way it should be, really. Like,
absolutely, Matthew. Absolutely.
I think in a sense, part of our jobs as ministers is to help people to form healthy belief systems. I mean, and to support their exploration of their relationship with God, the universe, or whatever. And I think in some churches there is, as you said, Tony, an element of ego with that, where people want to be seen in a place of authority rather than a place of service. And you know, being a minister is interesting because we're in service to God, but we're also in service to everybody who comes knocking on our door, looking for support or guidance or fellowship. So, you know, I think I don't know where I was going with that, actually, but here we are.
I actually think you've summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, it's raised a perfect point for me, which is when I put the purple shirt and the collar on, I don't see that as giving me any authority. I see that as opening a door and saying, please come in, tell me what you want from me. Exactly. Rather than, here it is, I'm going to tell you, you know. No, it's that. I think using the word collar is quite telling, because it's almost like you put a collar on to be led by your congregation. Not that you're going to pull them along with you.
Exactly.
You know, and it's interesting that you made that same point, Matthew. It really is.
My favorite story of explaining why I wear the collar is someone once described it as the red light above my head. I'm not quite sure what they meant by that. But I went, obviously, in my mind at the moment greatly is Mum being in Addenbrooke's Hospital, because, you know, just this last couple of days. But there was an occasion where she went for a scan nearly a year ago, I would say. She went for this scan, and I was, you know, get out, go away, wander off. So I was still a smoker at that time, so I went for a quick puff. And I'd forgotten that I'd got a service that night and was all dressed up, ready to go straight away. And I was walking down the road past another wing of the hospital, and this woman come running down the steps to me and said, "Oh, Father, 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 would you come and pray with my husband? He's got a liver disease and is about to go in for an operation." Now, I didn't sit there and say, well, obviously you've called me a father, so you're not part of my, organization. I didn't sit there and think, oh, I need to tell you I'm a spiritualist. You might not like me. My answer was yes, because I got the sign on saying I'm in service.
Yes.
And she flagged the taxi down and needed a fare. And that's exactly what I did.
Yes.
Now, there would be those that would say I should have identified myself. There would be those that would say she would be upset if she found out who I really was. But at that particular moment, her husband needed somebody to pray with. And she felt that I was the appropriate person by my attire. I was there when needed. I did my job.
Yeah.
I don't care what God you follow in terms of identification, because we all know that it's the same one, straightforward.
Yeah.
I can add on to this really quickly. So my mom passed away back in 2009. And when it was very sudden, but she was in a coma for a week. She had a really bad brain bleed, and then she was in a coma. So we were all told, like, hey, she's not going to make it. Every hour is a blessing. And so we were like, okay, well, let's get a hold of a minister to come and, do something about do the last rites, because she would, her mom was Catholic and she was raised Catholic. And so we were going to call a priest, and we told the nurse that we wanted, chaplain support or something. And she came back and she said, "I'm really sorry, there's nobody on call." And I said, "There's nobody on call?" She said, "Well, there's one person, but he's Sikh. So obviously, you're not going to be interested." And we were like, "No, call him. Like, we really don't care who it is. They've got a telephone line upstairs. We're good with it. Doesn't matter who it is." So the gentleman came, and he looked, and he was looking around, and he saw, only us in the waiting room. And he said, "Hi." He's like, "I'm Sikh. I don't think you're looking for somebody like me." And we said the same thing. We said, "Listen, dude, like, do your thing. Whatever prayers you want to use, like, we just need somebody who is a prayerful person, somebody of some cloth to be here with us." And my whole family was there, and he did his prayers, and it was beautiful. And then the next day, I think it was Anglican minister came, and then a Catholic priest at some point, because we just, I guess at one point, just thought we'd hit as many as we could, hoping one of them was the right one. Just kidding.
No.
It was beautiful, and the same divine presence that we felt with the types of clergy that we were more familiar with was the same divine presence that we felt with the clergy that we had no experience with. And so it goes to say something big, I think.
Absolutely. A couple of interesting questions in the chat. Daniel, what is the original purpose for the collar?
Yes. So it was designed by a Scotsman of the, I can't remember his name, but it really was just about identifying ministry. And it was created by a member of the Scottish church. I believe he was Presbyterian. Somebody may correct me if I'm wrong, but it was invented by this Scottish minister, and it was fairly late on in the development of Christianity. And it really was about, identifying who you were, as opposed to the joke about I'm a father of many. No, I think you just need to turn your collar the wrong way round. And I always mess up the punchline. So, but it was literally designed as a flag to say, this is who we are. This is who we are.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it becomes a symbol of power. I knew that was coming.
Way for the Scots.
Way for the Scots. I thought you'd like that, Kaz. And as Joanne has just said, as mediums and as a medium and a healer, to give a message or to give healing for me is being of service, which I enjoy. You're being of service in your own unique way. Sue, loved what you had to say. I did too, and you
Absolutely.
know, it does remind me of another joke that's a lot better and a lot less naughty, about the waiting room behind the gates of heaven, where Peter says, "What religion are you?" Go down the road and go to the left, go down the road and third on the right. And, someone said, "I don't think I'm in the right place. I didn't actually believe in any one particular God." "Oh, no, go straight through to the quadrangle. Once they've all figured out that they're all in the same place, we'll let them through and join you."
Yeah,
It's.
I love that.
I don't tell it very well, but it's really, really telling that we all hang stuff on that. I've got to stop saying that because people are going to get annoyed. But we all hang stuff on the Christmas tree, forgetting that underneath is just a Christmas tree.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've never heard you say that before, so
I said it while you were sorting the dogs out. So
okay.
I'll get myself in trouble. But I think the other one that you mentioned, Tony, which I did star up because I knew I'd lose it, was Lorraine. Do you think the spiritualist churches vary in different countries, or do they follow the same sort of format, gents?
I can tell you they're very different. So in Canada, for example, there's a lot of people that follow like an SNU style spiritualism. There's a lot that don't. If you go to the States, in the northern part of the US, you're going to find things that are similar to Canada and the UK. The further you go south, it gets really interesting because the definition of spiritualism is completely different. They still follow the seven principles, but they bring in a lot of like magic and mysticism and right even into like working with roots and herbs and in a very hoodoo kind of way. And so depending on where you go, you're going to see the word spiritualism mean slightly different things. So if somebody was in like Louisiana and said, "Oh, I'm a spiritualist," then they're going to think you have spells and candles as well as mediumship and healing. But the further north you go, the less that influence is there, which I think is just very interesting. And then here in Canada, we're very similar to the UK for most spiritualist churches, for sure.
And that was actually very interesting for me meeting you, because I'd heard so many different things about, spiritualism across the world, in particular, the association with America because of the Fox sisters.
Yes.
And that was the birth of modern spiritualism. Yeah. But then they worked with Emma Hardinge Britton. She came over and did her own thing.
Yes, exactly.
To an extent. So it would have fragmented. But the wonderful thing that I've found, certainly getting to know you, is that it's not always exactly what we are told. And I'm certainly more inclined to listen to what you say as what goes on over there, because you're there doing it now.
Yes.
Somebody once told me that in America, they don't have mediums in spiritualist churches. The minister is the medium and that's it.
No, so in a really small congregation, that might be the case. Like, let's say it was like the minister who's also a medium and a healer, and there's like 2 other people or 5 other people or 10 maybe. But most spiritualist churches have both guest mediums, so ones that tour or travel, like the same way that they do in the UK. Others will have like a panel of ones that are part of that congregation and they work. So yeah, I would say that that's not the case. Now here for some churches, so legal ordination is different than just being ordained here in Canada. I don't know what that's like in the in the UK, but in Canada, for a church to have the ability to license you in spiritualism, it's incredibly rare. I was ordained through a church that had the ability to license me at a government level, so I'm a government licensed minister, but that's very rare. In those churches, in order to become a minister, you had to have certificates in healing, mediumship, and speaking. So you couldn't do it with just one. And so that may be part of where that comes from, is that here, if you're going to be a minister in a spiritualist church, you have to be able to hit the trifecta. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work for your ordination.
Sure. And it is very different over here as well, because the legal constraints might seem a little looser, but the legislation representing the different parts of the role of minister are very different as well. For example, there is no legal requirement to be registered or licensed as a minister, majorly because the only so-called legal ministry is the Church of England, because we are a Church of England nation. However, the legal standpoint is the government does not legislate on matters of conscience, and it follows very much in the vein of the United Nations human rights on religion, that any group that comes together can proclaim its own ministers. However, the slight tweak on that is that you do have to register with the local authority if you're going to go into prisons. You do have to be registered with a building if you're going to perform weddings. That's in the middle of changing at the moment, but as it stands at the moment, it's the building that can perform marriages, not the individual. They have to be additionally registered, but you have to have the building. When it comes to civic buildings, we're not even allowed to do hotels or beaches or forests or anything like that, because it's a civic building. And then obviously the even harder and stricter one is if you have to, if you want to go and speak to someone in a hospital, you have to be registered with the ward manager.
Yeah.
So you have to ask permission, and that's it.
That is actually kind of similar to here. So here, anyone can call themselves a minister, but to be able to like perform marriages, for example, you have to be licensed by the province of whatever province you're in. So I think it is similar, just maybe like for the weddings and things like that, it's a little bit different.
You've got a more of an organized structure. Ours is still very desperate and disparate. Sorry, not desperate. Disparate. But yeah, I mean, the weddings thing, they are working on realigning it. So if we wanted the village hall, for example, to be registered as a place of worship, we couldn't, because it's a community building. But with the new legislation that they're trying to push through, it could be.
Oh, that's very cool.
So fingers crossed. But then the laws on marriage are so old and antiquated that if you have a wedding that starts at 5:30, if you haven't finished the service by 6:00, it's null and void.
What? That's crazy. That's so different. Here, you can have like an all-day wedding here if you want. You could have a week-long wedding if you wanted to. I mean, nobody would, but you could. You could for sure for an actual ceremony. But yeah, here to be married, you can either have like a judge marry you, or a justice of the peace, or you can have clergy. But they have to have like a specific license. That's very hard to get. I have it, but it's a very, very hard to get license unless you actually went to some kind of seminary and through an ordination process. You're not going to get it.
Absolutely. Bliss has just arrived. Welcome to the party. She'd forgot us. Bless you. We'll let you off this time. Good question there, actually, from Lorraine.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't. I would like to.
I've never been asked.
If I was asked, I would like to. Yeah, definitely. There's nothing. There's no reason why I wouldn't go. I would really like to. To be honest, I would go wherever there's a need.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody needs me, I will go.
Yeah. I've got the paperwork filled out, ready to put through on the off chance that someone asks. Is the honest truth.
I do not, but not because I don't want to. I have some health issues that I'm sorting out, so I don't really go very far at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, as a reminder for everyone at home, Matthew does not require to wear sunglasses for the effort of coolness. He's got a bit of a dodgy head, so I'm trying to be as calm and quiet as I can. So that's why he's protecting himself. Migraines can be bloody awful.
They are.
In fact, I should probably think about going and lying down for a little bit pretty soon. But it was really fun to be here with you guys, as always. Hopefully, we won't let another year go by.
I hope not.
Absolutely, had not better. Just as a summarising, I've been once, but not as a minister, and that was Reverend Allen. I know what he's talking about. I need you here, guys. Come up for a party. So we've been invited to Scotland.
That would be
and I think you're brilliant, Tony. Is so approachable.
Yeah.
Isn't that lovely? Now, for everyone at home, just to let you know, we are going to be wrapping up soon.
Yes.
Because Reverend Matthew needs a lie down. I'm sure there'll be plenty of offers of a damp tea towel on your forehead, but I think they've all been beaten to that, quite rightly so. And Reverend Tony's got to be out fairly soon as well.
Yeah, I've got to be gone.
So, we are going to start wrapping up, but thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Matthew, for coming on. We can't leave it that long anymore.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun, as always. It's always a pleasure to do this with you guys anytime.
Yeah. Absolutely. And thank you to everyone at home for being part of the conversation, for leading the conversation, for asking your questions. If you want to stay involved, we do have a Facebook page. It is, of course, facebook.com/groups/2Revs. There you can find out when we're on, what we're doing, but basically it's Fridays at 4 p.m. You can also find information where you can order a Spiritline t-shirt. We don't make any money from that.
No,
but it's just a bit of fun, and everyone's really enjoying that. I will say that it is coming. By the end of the weekend, I will be making badges for both the Independent Spiritualist Alliance and Spiritline if you want one.
I'm gonna buy one as long as you mail to Canada.
I mail everywhere apparently. But yes, of course I would.
Daniel's waiting for his.
Daniel's waiting for his to come, and I know Tony's been very, very busy with the t-shirts. Actually, it's amazing, and it really is such fun. So thank you all so very much for that. But it's always so uplifting to come together and just chat. And be part of a conversation, and that's what it really, really is for us. It's a conversation, and as Eunice would say, it's not a lecture; it's a chat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, and Joanne as well. Praying my t-shirt will get to me.
Oh. It will. He's very good with the postal. He's much better than me. But there we are. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Thank you.
Always is a pleasure.
This was awesome, as always.
And I hope next time you're feeling better.
Me too, because I felt really dramatic sitting here in sunglasses the whole time.
It just adds to the mystique, darling. It just adds to the mystique.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you to everybody who is in the chat, and as you guys mentioned, leading our conversation. It is always a pleasure to be here with you, and I hope that you all have a beautiful weekend. And
you.
Thank you.
Oh yes, and that I am working on the logo. They named that. This is how much I don't know what's going on in the church, and just let people enjoy themselves and do what they want. And they really. Alan and Eunice run the healing circle, and it was a drum healing circle. And then they decided that they wanted a name, so they voted to have a name. They've given me the name, and I'm in the process of designing a few sample logos for them. They have just grown beyond all measure of expectation or joy. It's just brilliant, and it's its own entity. They're going to have their own page on the ISA website when it gets uploaded, and it's the White Feather Shamanic Drum Healing. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of the healers out there banging their drums for your healing, Matthew.
Oh, thank you. I would appreciate.
I had to be very careful how I phrased that. Because I haven't foobarred this week.
There's still like 30 seconds left.
And there is still time, so I'm trying to be careful. See, this is what I love about the community. Joanne's t-shirt was posted Tuesday.
Yeah. Fabulous.
Isn't that awesome? Well,
Wonderful.
thank you all at home. Thank you both. Reverend Tony, a pleasure as always.
God bless.
Reverend Matthew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all at home. So from me, it's goodbye and God bless.
Goodbye. God bless you all.
Goodbye, God bless, and go have some fun. It's Friday. Come on.
Absolutely.
Get off your computers. Go do something cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. God bless everyone. We'll see you next week. But from all of us here, good night, God bless, good God, and goodbye.